Hey, Rock Youth, thanks for joining us for Team Talk. We are in a tough discussion around being transformed by the renewing of our mind, specifically around relationships, sexuality, what the purpose of it is biblically. And today we come to a passage from Song of Solomon, probably a book that your parents wouldn't recommend you read because it does talk about marriage. But if it's in the Word of God, I think it's important for us to understand what it says. And he's actually talking to a person who is like dating or desiring to date somebody.
Yeah.
In this passage, and so I hope that you'll stick with us as we figure out what Song of Solomon says to do when we want to date someone. Well, this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Interesting passage.
I remember reading through this book for the first time.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's hard to understand sometimes.
It's a little bit.
Because
yeah.
it's poetic.
It's very poetic, a lot of love.
Yeah, but I mean, he speaks in these like pictures, like we're gazelles and mountains and all this stuff, and then like I'm like, just tell me it. Stop.
Just spit it out, man.
yeah. But we do. We come here to this passage, and he. What's interesting, a lot of people don't want their young people reading Song of Solomon because they think it's written to a marriage.
Right.
But it's actually written to somebody who like wants to be married.
Yeah.
It's written to like someone who has these desires to be married.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking like God wired that desire in us.
Oh yeah.
You know, because like we were lonely, so He wired that desire for us to have
a companion,
teammate, and a companion. Yeah. And so he specifically, talks here to someone and, says, so see if you relate with this, if you haven't read it already. He says, "Oh, I wish you were my brother who nursed at my mother's breast. Then I could kiss you no matter who was watching, and no one would criticize me. I would bring you into my childhood home, and there you would teach me. I would give you spice wine to drink and sweet pomegranate wine. Your left arm would be under my head, and your right arm would embrace me." So there's this aspect of like, I want to be with you. I like you. I'd love to be married to you. I wish we could be married so that I could just embrace you and give you this public display of affection.
Right.
And my parents nobody would make fun of us. Nobody would stop us.
Mm-hmm.
Like that desire is in this woman here.
Yeah, like in a nutshell, this would be like you guys. I want to date this person, but my parents won't let me date them.
Right.
I want to be with this person. Why won't they let me? This is.
I wish they'd let me hold her hand or give her a kiss. Good night.
What's it gonna hurt? Like,
yeah.
What's the problem with it?
Right, and that's what this woman is feeling here, and I think about it, and I think that I've been there. Like I remember, whether it was the girl that I dated just a kiss or it was Christy, like there were moments where I'm just like, man, I wish we were just married, and all this could go away and the rules would stop, The interesting thing though is that what is Solomon's recommendation in verse 4? So he relates and he says like, this feeling is normal. We all have this feeling.
He's like, but why don't you guys just stop here?
Yeah.
You cannot awaken love until the time is right. It says,
He
promise me, O woman of Jerusalem, not to awaken love until its time is right.
Right. And so we've done this so many times with you teenagers out there. It's like, just promise us that you won't awaken love. And so I wonder what awakening love looks like.
Yeah, what does that look like?
Because we've talked a lot about these 5 different areas in the last few videos. That we connect spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and socially. Like these 5 areas that we like bond one with a person.
Right.
And biblically we tend to easily go to physical. Like, okay, how far is too far physically?
Right.
And we kind of forget about these other ones.
Well, before the physical starts, it starts with other things. It's
right.
things that, like other elements that lead up to the physical aspect of it.
Right. So what I think about is, since we bond in these other ways, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, before we get there, are there some things in your life, the way you bonded with Allie, things you did to bond with her, on those other ways. And so things like the first time you said I love you, or it might not even be Allie, it might be another girl, for like your first kiss or something like that.
So for me, like I'll jump to Allie.
Yeah.
As far
Yeah.
with all of this, because like for me, like the first time I said I love you,
Yeah.
like to Allie, like that was the first time that I like really meant it. Like that was like, and I
Right.
never had said that to anybody before.
Right. Can you but like with that moment, can you like picture where you were at and what happened?
I'll never forget it. And I'm cheesy like
what
that
the room
too.
smelled like?
Yeah. Well, actually, what ended up happening is it's a little embarrassing, but I did it over text message, and she scolded me for it.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She like sucked it out of me over a text
Yeah.
message one night while she was working, but yeah, I remember the moment very clearly. I was in the garage.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there on this bucket texting, and I just remember getting like this wave of like emotion over me, and I had said it, and I just every time like her and I kiss now, like I go back to that. I have that emotional connection to that moment that I can like tie to that. Like
Now what about, because you're talking about I love you.
mm-hmm.
What about the first time you said I love you like in front of your parents, like to her, or anything like that? Did you ever feel like the woman here that's like, I wish I could just tell Allie I love her, but it'd be so awkward and my parents are gonna be like, huh?
Well, it's weird to hear. It's like, yeah, it's weird to say it in front of somebody else.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
Right. So you
like-
have these emotions, these feelings, but at the same time, they're so tied with our physical.
Mm-hmm.
Like even for me, like I remember our first kiss, like down to details. Like I remember it was in Christy's Dodge Spirit, and we were in the driveway. I can remember how the car was parked. She was driving, not me. There's so many interwoven tied things because it makes us one flesh.
Yeah, you set like fire to like this love for this woman, like in that. Like when
Right. Right, because when we talk about awakening love, it's not always just the physical, it's tying in all these other ways. So like I can tell you about the physical, like how it made me feel when I kissed her for the first time. But I have these other memories. Like I can tell you the car, the position, that it was in the driveway. I can tell you like the time period and date. Like there's so many other things that are tied with it and the emotions that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That when we talk about like yesterday and we talked about how we're supposed to have our own wife, if Christy wasn't my own wife, and she happens to be, but if she wasn't, then I'm awakening those things before it's time with another person, which I did. And I have another scenario where I had my actual first kiss, and I have all those same memories in a different way with a different person.
A negative way.
Right. But then I even have, on the other side, like Christy and I never had sex before we were married, but we touched and did things we shouldn't have done before we were married. And I was awakening this love, and it caused lust in me. And our relationship, our marriage started off really poorly because of awakening these love things before it. As well as I was sinning along the way. Like creating that own problem in my heart. And so when I look at this and we're talking about, okay, what does it look like to awaken love before it's time, we really have to like put practical aspects on those different points. Like, so physically, what are things we can do that awaken that love? One of those things is touching.
Yeah, touching, holding hands.
Yeah.
Could be just as basic as holding hands.
Right.
Or like hugging somebody.
Right, and we think like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Does it mean I just want to show them, care for them? Well, yeah, that's what that does.
Yeah, you're birthing like emotion, like and awakening the love by doing that. And
right.
I mean, and the feelings that come alongside that. Like if some of you have already partaken in that, like it's a rush of emotion when you're holding someone's.
And the reason you want to do that is you have this loneliness that is wired in you that needs to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
But you're trying to awaken it before, like he's saying, before it's the right time.
Right.
Like there is a right time to fill that. But it's not until you're ready to be married.
That's right.
And often people are like, well, when they ask like, when can I start dating as a teenager? well, what do you mean by dating? You know,
Right. What is
like,
that?
when can I hold her hand? When can I, kiss her?
Right.
When can I spend time with her? Because those are other things.
Mhm.
Like, because, okay, we have the physical. What about emotional? What are some things we can do emotionally that stir up and awaken that love? And I think about when we were dating, there was a moment I wrote Christy a poem.
Okay.
Oh, I also meant to bring him in, but I had a wood carver. I have no wood carver. I don't know if anybody even knows what that is, but
Make like little nativity scenes.
little trinkets and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, I have some things that I've made for Christy through the years. These little, like, I don't know, dust collectors, but they mean stuff to us,
Right.
And I wrote that poem, and I did those things to awaken love in her.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her to love me.
Right.
So there's this one, it's a heart, and it has a 2 on it, and it's painted her orange and yellow, her favorite flower.
Mhm.
Like, I just told you a lot of emotional connections I was trying to make.
Right.
And I was awakening that love.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same process, I was lusting after her,
Right.
which was wrong. And so I think about, like, other things teenagers do that would be emotional connections. Have you ever seen promposals?
No.
Like, so prom is, well, not this year. There's no prom this year because of COVID.
Sorry, everyone.
But a lot of guys will do promposals. They'll, like, make this big extravagant, like, will you go to prom with me?
Really?
Yeah, you've never seen this?
No, I
Oh.
just walk and be like, hey, we go to prom for me? No. Oh.
No. They'll do these big extravagant things, and everyone's different, but it's an
Okay.
emotional connection. And this girl goes, "Oh, he's so sweet. Yeah, I'll go to prom with him."
Yeah.
Yeah, those are trying to emotionally stir up love in this girl.
Reminds me of like the bird that does the special dance. Like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
National Geographic.
to catch the girl's
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you do. Or pet names.
Mm-hmm.
Saying I love you. It's
Yeah.
a big thing. I remember in middle school when the first kid said I love, like, this boyfriend girlfriend thing said I love you, and
Yeah.
how such a big deal. Can you believe they just said I love you?
Right.
But the whole point behind you ever saying those things is to awaken love.
To build a connection.
Yeah.
I remember, it happens even early on, like right on Valentine's Day with, like, when you were younger, you'd make the Valentine's Day box.
Mhm.
You were wondering who's going to, like, say they have a secret crush on me.
Oh yeah.
You remember
Yep.
those?
Yeah, for sure.
So you have that, or in, like, the yearbook, as you get ready to graduate, like, who's going to say they had actually secret crush on you? And that's when you would
Yeah.
actually, like, write, like...
Yeah. Or you get the little. You remember? I don't know if they pass notes anymore, but we used to pass notes,
Mhm.
and you get this note, and you're like, my name. It's all like flowery. And
It's like hard.
Yeah. Conversations alone, emotionally, you connect, like just spending long conversations alone with somebody,
Right.
and just desiring that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about deep dark secrets,
Yeah.
these things awaken love.
Yeah, anytime
Before
you're
it's
like,
time.
you're opening you're opening your heart up to that person, especially with like deep dark secrets, because that's
Right.
like that's heavy down. That's like a huge trust issue,
Right.
and you're like letting your guard down,
Right.
and you're letting that.
And so
in.
when we talk about like saving yourself for your wife, like we did yesterday, like, we're talking about these aspects.
Mhm.
Not doing these emotional deep things.
Yeah, you don't want to share these with the person that's
But
not.
it's not in the Bible. It doesn't say I can't sit and talk about them with my deep dark secrets. It doesn't.
It doesn't. You're right. It does not say it. But what it is doing is it's sparking an emotional like sensor in your brain
Mhm.
that's attaching yourself to that person. And what it ends up doing is it's a spiral down effect, because then you start going down,
Yeah.
and then what it eventually happens is you end up in the physical category.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it may start in like holding hands or staring at that person,
Yeah.
or like maybe batting your eyes at that person, or writing them a
Or
note,
winking.
at them, sending them a text, calling them,
Yeah.
like anything like that can like
Yeah.
spark up like
Or
emotion.
like we talk about the social aspect too, like just stopping hanging out with your friends and only spending time with them and spending so much time with them. Like, these things awaken love that may or may not already be there.
Oh yeah,
You know?
and you all see that. Like you have friends, I'm sure, that like once they start, like they get into a relationship, like, oh, Chris is never around anymore. He's always around that girl, like, or
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and these things, they begin to bind you. And they should. Like, God designed them to bind us.
Mhm.
But the problem is we awaken love before it's time.
yeah, it's premature.
And sometimes it's with the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like for me, it was the right person, but it was at the wrong time. And it
Yeah.
caused sin and lust in the process.
Right.
You know? And another one that's my favorite, actually, like on the funny side, like the mental aspect that we bind ourselves, we start to plan our life together.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember with my first girlfriend, I was 15 or 16, barely could drive,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I remember we would sit on Ford's website and like plan the vehicles we were going to own when we were adults, you
Okay.
know. But like we were planning life. But you remember that phase of life when you like liked a girl or a girl liked a guy, and they would do this thing of, okay, so like Allie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what was her maiden name.
Barnard.
Barnard. Okay, so Allie Barnard. But when she started to think she liked you, she'd go like, "Huh, Allie Fitzgerald. How does that sound?" You know?
Oh, she totally did that because she wanted to be rescued from the name. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
just that people call her Barnyard.
You know, but like I did it, and so like I laugh at it my own like Christine, that has a good sound. You know, like
Yeah.
But you do like you begin to plan your life together and think about and you're stirring and awakening this
Mhm.
love that it's not time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or it's not the right person.
Right.
You know, and so we have to be very careful. You know, Solomon here and God through Solomon is recognizing how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a real thing. We do feel this, and God puts that yearning in us for a companion, a teammate, a helpmeet.
Right.
But we have to listen to His warning. Promise me not to awaken love until it's the right time. And when is it the right time? Yes, after the altar.
Mm-hmm.
Not any before it.
No.
And we didn't do that for everything, you know?
Right.
We didn't do that. You're like, oh, but it worked out for you. No, it didn't. We have so many regrets and we wish we could take it back. And you are at the age that maybe you haven't even done anything yet and you can start with the right foundation. And that's our desire and our hope.
Right.
You know, is that you will do that you will take our warning by our bad example.
Yeah, before you embark on this road of like these just prematurely awakening love before it's time.
Right, because we're sitting here just like Solomon and saying, oh, please just promise us to not do the things that would awaken love before it's time.
Right.
And it's not time until you're ready to commit to until death do us part.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not there, then you shouldn't be
No.
stirring up physical, stirring up emotional, stirring up social, stirring up spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stirring up the mental, like, life planning thing together.
Right.
And so stick with us. We've got a couple more topics, and then next week we're going to get into talking about very specific guidelines on how far is too far. But you can kind of feel the tone. Pretty much everything's too far.
much.
You know.
We're talking about not awakening love before
Yeah.
it even happens. So.
Yeah.
Um,
But we will get to specifics and what the Bible talks about. But these are foundational principles of, okay, we're to treat, you know, people like they're not our wife until they are, or our spouse until they are. And then here, we're not to awaken love. Anything that awakens that desire,
emotional desire to like want to.
then what do we
that
do?
person.
We cast it down. We put it away. And so, thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 3 as we continue this conversation.